Okay, so hey y'all, welcome to another Sips and Conversations Live. I am your host, Nancy Ngwa, and today I am sipping, okay, because it has been a week. It has been a week, and I must sip. So, sip of the day is the McBride Sisters, all right, some Black Girl Magic. Yes, I got my straw. My child tells me it's ghetto, but you know what? It's okay. Sometimes, we must sip out of a straw to keep our pearly whites white. So today I am like excited is not even it's not even a word, y'all. It's not. I am elated to be able to be joined with my Corpus Christi sister, okay? So and we'll get all up into the story as to, how I know this guest, and yeah, let's just go ahead and just jump right on into the chat. But I'm bringing up Miss Wanda Webb, y'all. So raise your glasses and let's give a little cheers.
Cheers. Hello, hello.
Hey, girl. Hey. Cheers.
Cheers, queen.
I know. Welcome. You look lovely as always. Oh my goodness. I tried to I had to get home from work real fast. I'm like, girl, put yourself together because you cannot be looking a whole hot mess with Wanda on the line. Okay.
Listen, I'm not even going to front. Me and my husband were just paper socks, rock, paper, scissoring for who gets the office because he has a call too. And I threatened all of my children's life that they better be quiet. So let's rock.
I love it. I love it. Love it. All right. So, Wanda, we're just going to hop right on in to the chat. And I just want you to just introduce yourself really quickly because today's all about you. I know you're used to talking about a lot of different things, but we want to dive into who Miss Wanda Webb is, the lady. So go ahead and do a great little intro for everybody that's into the room.
I love it. What's up, everyone, to the line, and an extra special hello to all the queens on the line. My name is Wanda Webb. I am an author, keynote speaker, and a full-time entrepreneur. Thank you, God. Going
Yes,
on over a decade. What I do in this phase of my life now is I help other women get towards their purpose and their passion in a way that's super authentic to themselves and in a way that can bring value to the marketplace. And currently, I have a new book out called High Heels, which is for the woman who wants to heal and step out of her way, where I share some of my personal experiences and some of what I've learned mentoring high power women in terms of how we can self-sabotage ourselves and not even know it. And so in this book, there are over 20 chapters dedicated to different ways that we might be getting in our own way. And my entire vibe is just to be the friend in your head that can really help you evolve into the woman that you're meant to be. So Nancy, thank you so much for just this time and just an opportunity to share with your network, my network, two amazing women who I just really look up to you, value you, you are highly valuable, and really just excited to share this space with you right now.
Thank you. Thank you. Like, y'all, okay, drop some hearts in the comments if you are already not like on like hype. This is yes, what yes, Rama's like yes, okay, because this is the reason why when you said you would come on, I was just so excited to just really share your light with with my audience, but also with yours, because yeah, you get to see this phenomenal woman in front of you. But I want to give a little bit of backstory as to, who you were, back in the day a little bit. Okay, Jenny from the block.
In the 99s and the 2000s.
In the 2000s. Right. So, yeah, so let's just kind of get back to, I want to hear about your childhood. How did you grow up? And then we'll just kind of move forward into the lovely woman you are today.
Yeah. So me and Nancy actually met each other in Corpus Christi, Texas, where that's where my heart is, in Corpus Christi, Texas. I was predominantly raised there, I can say, but I was born in Queens, New York, to a single Puerto Rican mom trying to find her way.
Yeah.
And, my entire family comes from a very small island of Puerto Rico. And when they came here, they were just, mostly women, poor women, single women with children who, it doesn't sound real sexy, but they came here for factory jobs and for some of the incentives that the U.S. government was offering Puerto Ricans to migrate to New York in the 70s and 80s.
Wow.
And so that's my family.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's definitely very different from the
Yeah.
Texas that I live in and love now. But if you ever get a little bit of a city swag for me, it's the New York Rican all the way.
The New York Rican, I love that. Okay, so I actually didn't realize that you were from New York. So I'm like, you are very like ba ba boom. Okay, the hustler vibe and everything like that. So that makes so much more sense as to why you are such an ambitious lady. So how did you make it all the way down to Texas from being a New York Rican?
Ooh, okay. So, um, my mom got into some things when she was in New York. And a long story short, my brother's father was involved in a lot. Actually, you could probably Google his name. And my mom got a deal. She got a deal,
Wow.
and she took that deal to protect her and her children. And part of that deal was relocation. And
Wow.
and she took that deal and decided to go the farthest that she could from New York, and that was South Texas. And she came there only knowing one person in all of Texas, came there and basically restarted her entire life, rebuilt with no support, with nothing. And so it's definitely a crazy story. It's a dynamic story. But I give her so much credit for relocating, because I do know that I got a different childhood, being able to be raised in such a quiet coastal town as opposed to the Bronx or the Queens. So
Yeah.
I definitely feel a privilege being raised in a safer
Wow.
environment.
Yes. Wow. Just like kudos to your mom. You know what I mean? Because like I'm an immigrant as well. So being a product of well, I guess I'm an immigrant, but I'm a product of immigrant parents who brought me to America. It our parents have to do what they have to do because you come from nothing. I was actually talking to my dad yesterday, and he was like, he has people that come into his office and they kind of look down upon him or they try to spit. And like he's like, "You're in my office, honey. You can exit." He said when people look at him crazy, like, "Who do you think you are?" He's like, "Do you know where I came from? You
Yeah.
are not about to define me right now." So I love the fact that your mom was like, I came from amazingness. I have struggled, and I'm about to give my child. I don't know if do you have siblings?
One brother. Yep.
One brother. I'm giving my kids, an amazing life, which is just, I just love that. I love that so much. Okay, so you're being raised in Corpus Christi, all right, which is where Selena, Beady Beady Bum Bum, all right, was, yes,
All the
yeah, that
vibes.
whole,
Yes.
all the
Selena
vibes.
forever.
Yeah, so yeah, I love Selena. So, you get raised, you go through school and all that good jazz, go to college. I know a little bit of your story, but for those that don't really know, how did you transition from childhood to like maybe early 20s?
Yeah. So it was hard. At 14 years old, I was on my own,
Wow.
and it was definitely a season. I decided that I was going to stop going to school and I was going to work full time because I just didn't know what to do. I was a kid.
Yeah.
And I had a teacher that came hunting me down after being gone from school for like 2 or 3 days. She came hunting me down, found me, and was like, absolutely not. You've got way too much potential. And she did the most selfless thing that an educator could do and not even expected to do. But she asked me to live with her to finish my high school experience.
Wow.
The only rule was that I go hard in academics, which I had no problem doing, and that I applied for college. And, I actually had no intentions of going to college. I just did not think that it was somewhere for a girl like me. And my teacher ended up filling out an application for a scholarship behind my back and filed it and submitted the scholarship. And then she said, hey, they need you to they need you to show up to a meeting. And I'm like, what kind of meeting is this? And she actually had signed me up for what is known as the Buccaneer Days Scholarship. So in my city of Corpus Christi,
Okay.
we have a huge parade once a year. It's the largest parade in Texas. And it kicks off a month-long celebration known as Buck Days or Buccaneer Days.
Okay.
And the way that the entire event kicks off is everyone goes to this huge football stadium, and they have girls that all year are volunteering and doing service work and hoping to be crowned the next Miss Buck Days.
Oh,
And
neat.
as a kid, I watched this. I watched the entire parade get kicked off by this one high school girl on the very first float, and everyone is screaming and throwing flowers at her. And it's such a cultural, like, it's so cultural. It's such a big deal for us down in South Texas. And I thought she was crazy for signing me up, because I'm like, I'm not like any of these girls. They're so poised, they're so proper, they're smart. And I'm like kind of from around the way. So it was an amazing experience. And that year, my senior year, I ended up getting crowned Miss Buck Days. And it was a big story because I was a homeless teen. So
Wow.
that story just was such a big deal, you know. And I ended up getting a full scholarship to Corpus Christi A&M. And you know, I want to be real transparent. My experience was not the same as it was for a lot of other people. And looking back, I didn't know what I needed to succeed in college the first time. I ended up dropping out my sophomore year because even though my expenses were paid, my living expenses were not. And
Wow.
I was used to being a homeless teenager. That means you sleep on people's couches and you got a backpack. I wasn't used to paying rent at a dorm. And so I had really no reference for what it looks like to be successful in that space. And I had amazing mentors, but I wasn't real transparent with them. I wasn't really open with them. I felt ashamed that I couldn't handle it. And so my sophomore year at A&M, I actually ended up dropping out.
Wow.
And it was the most profound thing that God could do for me to really help me develop. Because shortly after, I got to see that the world that I was in didn't have really big plans for me. It was evident that at 19, 20, 21 years old, even in a beautiful town like Corpus Christi, that not being surrounded by the right people was going to be a rough life. And it was really scary. I was on my own. I wasn't making great decisions. I was in survival mindset. And when you're in survival mindset, you get around other people who are in survival mindset.
Yes.
And I think that I also had incredibly limiting beliefs for what I was capable of. So it made me feel good to hang around a certain group.
Yeah.
But shortly after that, I had a scary experience where someone that I was involved with was pretty much about to go through the very thing that my mom was running from.
Wow.
And I just decided that I wanted different. I literally just disappeared on everyone and left my job. I was a bartender, left, didn't show back up. I was so sick and tired of not living the life that I knew God had for me. I knew there was big purpose in me. I knew that I had a dynamic voice, but I just felt so lost. I was incredibly lonely. I had a series of toxic boyfriends that were just not valuing me.
Yeah.
I had girlfriends who were kind of in the same situation I was in.
Yeah.
And around 22 years old, I just kind of made this declaration. And I think it was mostly because I was watching my peers graduate from school, move on to the next season of their life. And I just felt really down about where I was. And I almost thought that God had forgotten about me, or that he had hid his face from me. And I'm blessed because in that season of my life, I picked up a book that I talk about all the time that radically changed my world. And I started reading, like not normal reading, like obsessively reading.
What is the book? Can we get the book?
The name of that book was called Rich Dad, Poor Dad.
Oh,
And
yes.
it talks about what the wealthy know that the impoverished do not know to even teach children. And for the first time ever through that book, I had someone speak hope into me, telling me, you know, that my situation could be turned around, that even though I come from nothing and saw a lot of pain, that I could have wealth, I could have a lifestyle that produced wealth. And I remember reading that book and thinking, like, I want to do some of the things he's talking about. And specifically, I had that book in my purse because if you know it, it's pretty pocket sized. And I remember going on a date with a gentleman, and I pulled the book out because I was, you know, it's what I was excited about.
On the date. Wait, I love it.
His reaction was so disappointing. So disappointing. And I remember feeling like I'm not around the right people I need to be around.
And you were only 23?
I was like 21 going on 22.
21 at that time. Okay.
You know, and what Kiyosaki had said in that book is he was talking about real estate, and he was talking about how assets produce wealth, not money. And I was like, good, because I don't got no money. So just this amazing like concept that anyone could really go on to produce wealth. And I'll be keeping it
Yeah.
very real. I think the reason that I didn't enjoy college is because I always was, talk to me about the money. Like, where's the money? I want to know about money.
Yeah.
At 15, I lied about my age so I could have 2 jobs. At 17, I had
Wow.
jobs. When I was at Corpus Christi A&M, I had 3 full-time jobs.
Wow.
3.
Wow. Which makes sense because, like, I would see you every now and again at the club. I
Maybe.
was like, wait, was she on campus? Like, because you're a couple. It's been like 5 years or so, but a
Yes.
couple a couple years have passed by. But I'm just like, you were always gone. It was
Gone.
you and I have another friend of mine that y'all were just always gone. And I'm like, where the hell
Right.
y'all at though? Did y'all go to
I
school
was
or?
always at work. I worked at a grocery store, I worked at a radio station, and I worked at a shoe repair shop. I would
Yeah.
work anywhere that would hire me. And I had
Yeah.
work study, but that don't count because it was only 15 hours a week. So it was working, like
Only 15 hours a week.
if
Okay,
I
that's
didn't have
crazy.
money, yeah, if I didn't have money on my cafeteria card, I wasn't eating. I was also the smallest I ever was in my life. And I'll be, transparent. I didn't know it at the time, but I was battling intense mental depression and
Wow.
really in a dark place. But, again, you don't want to feel sorry for yourself because you just got crowned and you just got this big scholarship.
Yeah.
And it's like, go perform. And I'm like, I
Yeah.
don't know how to survive. I don't have parents right now. Like,
Wow.
you know, but I don't want anyone to hear this and feel sorry for me because listen,
No, it's it's
God
it's
for me.
incredible. Like and I hope no one's feeling sorry because it's me. I'm sitting here and I'm just like I'm in awe. I'm just so like I am wowed. I'm even more obsessed right now because to go from that, right? To being like I'm in survivor mode, to being a woman that speaks to people, the woman that you are today had to be that girl that you were back
Absolutely.
then.
Absolutely.
And I think that is just like the way God works. That is just so incredible. And I'm literally on like if my seat was hot, it would be like flames all around. 'Cause I'm on fire right now. So, for you to have gone from, hey, I'm in survivor mode, I don't belong in college, I'm hustling to, the next chapter in your life, which I'll let you continue. It's just like, just wow.
God's
So
glory,
how do you,
he gets all the
God
glory.
is all the glory. So how do you go from being that insecure, young lady that is going through, you know, just depression, right? And the fact that you can admit what that is right now, that's a lot of power. I mean, because there's power in owning where you were at. How did you transition to that, to the woman that you were starting to become?
It was very slowly. But that book that I read, it just empowered
Push
me.
that
And
word out.
so I
Yeah.
began looking to the back of that book, and there was all these other books he suggested. I literally went to the library because
Wow.
I have money.
Yeah.
And I would pull those books and I would read them. I have read every single thing published by Kiyosaki.
Wow.
Um, I've probably read now over 400 personal development books on wealth and personal development.
Wow.
That was my college. And
Wow.
at
Can,
23
can you can we pause for 5 seconds? Because a lot of people think that, you go to school and it's to become this amazing person or whatever, right? But for you to be like, no, my college, I took ownership over my life. My college was in those books.
Mhm.
The wealth you gain in those books was way more valuable than anything you learned in school.
Yeah. And it's what I needed because I needed to privately grow and I
Yeah.
needed to kind of see who I was and what
Yeah.
I was doing. I had to take
Yeah.
responsibility for where I was.
Yeah.
Um, 22 years old. When I tell you, I think I ran away at least 6 or 7 guys because I would pull that book out of my purse. I was so excited about it. And I could literally see their face like, yeah. Until I was 23 years old. And I had a mutual friend, actually someone we know, but I won't dare say his name on the live.
Okay.
I had a friend of a friend
Yeah.
who introduced me to someone, and he was like, he's a really nice guy, and he asked about you, and I'm like, okay, boy, my like
Yeah.
go over this. And we went on a date, and I pulled the book out of my purse, and we started talking about it. And he asked me if he could borrow it. At 4 a.m., I get a phone call from him, and I'm like, who does he think I am? Boy, bye. And the next
Yeah,
day,
because those hours.
4 a.m. phone call, get out of here.
Okay.
So the next day, I call him, and I was like, I think I missed your call. And he's like, I just finished reading that book.
Wow.
I was like, the whole thing? He's
Yeah.
like, yeah, it took me like 6 hours. I just finished reading
Wow.
it. And, you know, at that moment, what I really felt was seen. I felt seen. I felt understood.
Wow. Yeah.
I felt someone got like what I wanted to do next in my life.
Yeah.
And he was like, listen, can you call off of work? Because I want us to ride around and go look at some potential rental properties. And I'm like, I don't got no money to buy a house. I could barely pay rent. And he was like, I feel you, but like one day you will.
Okay, let's shout out to homie for speaking life.
Who's now my husband.
Who is husband? Like, ladies, period. Like, that is what a husband is. A husband is a developer. A husband is someone that sees you as who you are. Your husband don't have to be your best friend. I actually was having a conversation with one of my good friends the other day. Your husband is somebody who takes you where you're at, sees where you're going, and they say, let's ride this thing out together.
Okay.
So,
I believe that a husband's wife is his garden.
Yeah.
It is his garden.
Yeah.
And not that all my development should be in his hands, but when I meet him, he should make me better as I am. Wow. If we're both together and we're in the same place, what are we doing? So at 23 years old, I met my future husband, and all he wanted to do was talk about our future. And
wow.
You know, maybe it was because I was sick of talking about my past. I was tired of my past. I didn't want to be defined by that. I wanted to get lost in my future. And we had a connection that was super strong. Within 6 months, I was engaged. Within a year, I was married. Within a year and a half, I was going to be a mom. It was so
wow.
But he kept his promises, and we did. Before we got married, we bought our very first rental property together. Wow. And he had me manage the property, and it was our first business together. And I just was so excited. You know, fast forward a few years later, I did go back to school because I was like, listen, I need money for my investments.
Yes.
God is so good. I ended up getting a second full scholarship.
Wow.
A full scholarship. I didn't pay a dime. And I did a program in Abilene, Texas, where I went on to become a para-nurse and a geriatric nurse, which was one of the best seasons of my life. God seriously used those few years to form who I am and to form my compassion for humanity, which I never thought I would need to be an entrepreneur. But man, you really need those people skills. But in the next decade together, we would accumulate over a dozen multifamily units, which is 4.
Wow, that's 12. That's
so we went from single family to buildings. I was in West Texas looking at buildings that they were going to condemn, 4plexes, 6plexes, calling my husband like, we got to get this one. We could fix it up. I could see it. You know, I got raised in not great condition. So I had a vision for what this could be. And by the time I was 30 years old, I was 100% full-time retired from nursing. I was earning triple monthly from my rental properties. And I had also started to get scouted to basically teach and train. And that's a whole nother career opened up for me through network marketing. I joined network marketing because it was fun and because I wanted friends. And they're about their money and they're fun. Yeah. And, you know, I'm like everyone else. When I hear network marketing, I'm like, But I went on to make over $4 million myself in my very first company.
Wait. We just rolled right on over that. Like, I made over $4 million. Like, wait, what?
Yeah. So
this is a young woman. You are 31, you said, right, at this time?
Yeah, I'm 31.
31 years old. You are the product of an immigrant family of women who came to America to work in factories. Yeah. And at 31, you were a multi-millionaire. Like, do you ever sit and, I mean, I'm sure I know.
Yeah, I do. Every morning. Every morning I praise and worship. I cry my eyes out.
God, but God, right? Like, it's
Every
like,
morning.
why am I so blessed? Like, do you ever have that thought in your mind? Like, why me?
I do. And God has spoken to that. And it's because there's so many of us who we really feel like we've been abandoned. Maybe it's
Yeah.
abandoned by our parents, or abandoned by the people that should have taken care of us, or abandoned in the relationship. Or even worse, there's so many of us that feel like we've been abandoned by God.
Ooh,
And at a young age, I had no choice but to grasp for him and to cling to him because I didn't have the parents that I needed. And I love my mom very much.
yeah.
But she just was not in a place, she was just in a place where she was really hurting. And there was some usage and drug abuse. And so I had to figure some things out early. And,
Yeah.
you know, I always thought that God had abandoned me. And this chapter in my life, 3031, is starting to become so evident that that's not what happened at all. So I'm in my very first company. I end up being the lead speaker and trainer for that company. I mean, I'm doing events that are like 15 to 20,000 people in a stadium.
Like, you were packing out arenas, and that's when I came across your Instagram, and I was like, this was several years ago, and I
Yeah,
was like, wait, Wanda?
I
Hold
know.
on, hold on, hold on. Okay. And I just was so like just enamored and just wowed by the fact that this hometown girl was speaking to such, I mean, literally stadiums, y'all.
Yeah,
20,000 people. Somebody panned around and I was like, wow.
yeah. God's good.
God is so good.
Yeah. And he's used my pain really to bring me purpose because
Yeah.
I could be anywhere and I have this ability to be relatable and
Yeah.
to see people. And so
Yeah.
that company, you know, I ended up transitioning. My work there was done, but I got really raised up in that company and
Hmm.
I learned a lot. I made crazy networking connections. I met people that there's no way I should have access to.
Yeah.
And so that was, for me, seeing what was possible. And then there was time to transition, which was really hard for me to do. That company ended up kind of really transitioning into a completely different path. And I had a decision to make, you know, what do I do? And
Yeah.
that's kind of when I started to see that everything I had done for that company that I could do for myself. And instead of being, you know, Mrs. Insert company name here,
Yeah.
I could be Miss Wanda Webb.
Look at that.
Yeah. So a lot of what I did was training and raising up sales teams and organizations. And that's a really lucrative skill in business.
Yes.
So I went from,
Just a little, just
yeah,
just a little dabble, a
that's it.
little.
And I was so
Yeah.
scared to go into the
Yeah.
world of sales. But like
Yeah.
now I tell every young woman I know, like, if you don't have a path, you better get a real estate license, an
Yeah.
insurance license, get into
Yeah.
sales. Listen,
Yeah.
women kill these industries.
Yes.
And
Why do you think that is? Why do you think that women can kill it? And that's speaking to somebody that does not think that they can kill it.
listen, I'll tell you why. Because we have to. Because we're still not paid equal. We
Ooh.
have 40 years before the wage gap in this country will be met. There's
Wow.
120 years before globally the wage gap will start to close. That
Wow.
means that my baby will have babies before anyone sees her as having value to get paid.
Wow.
So even in the nursing world, I would go to school and there was like two guys in my class. We would go apply for the same job and they would always be offered more. And they would say
Wow.
things like, well, that's because there's a shortage of male nurses. Well, how come in the teaching world, or how come in places where there's a shortage of women, they don't pay us
Yeah.
more for being there? So maybe you can pay that male nurse more. But when I go into boardrooms,
Yep.
I'm always very many times, always the only woman, definitely
Yes.
the only woman with a little bit of a tint in her. And they
Yes.
compensate me more because I'm a minority in that
Y-
space. So
yes.
I believe that women kill it in insurance, they kill it in sales, they kill it in real estate, they kill it in network marketing because they have to. And many of these women are very highly educated. They've gone through the workforce and they've seen there's no love there. And at my experience, I was working 12-hour shifts as a nurse. And that's how, that's how I learned that the daycares can only keep your babies for 10 hours. I learned that when I went to drop my baby off on day 1 and they said, you got to pick her up at the 10-hour mark.
Wow.
And I had a 12-hour shift and they said, call somebody. We cannot legally hold her for more than 10 hours. And I'm like, how do women do it?
How do you work?
The director of the daycare was like, girl, they don't. They figure it out.
Wow.
And I just was like heartbroken. Hold on, I finally got my dignity back. I'm a nurse. This is an honorable career. I'm making 10,000 plus a month in rental property. I'm finally in my eyes thinking I have value. And I still got to struggle in the workplace. And so the reason I was so open-minded to network marketing is because I had to be. I was like, listen, what do I got to do to make $4,000 a month? Because that's what I was as a nurse.
Yes.
And, I sucked and it was hard. I was the girl that when I called you, I cried because I was so nervous. And my friends were like, are you crying? I'm like, no, I'm good, girl. Like, so bad. Even collecting rent, I sucked because I felt bad. I didn't know how, that businesswoman face on. But I'm so grateful that I didn't quit because year 1, I made $36,000. Year 2, I made $72,000.
Wow.
Year 3, I made $140,000.
Wow.
And year 4 is when it just
turned up.
3 million plus. I was like, holy cow, what's happening? I had 40,000 amazing customers all over the globe. I had to learn how to create systems, be a leader, and I had to learn. And when I tell people that, I've taken the things I've learned and I've applied them to everything else I've done. Yeah. In most rooms, I'm the one with the solution. Wow. In most rooms, I can see a vision. I can see a campaign in seconds. And it's because I had to grind it out, y'all. Figure it out. I had to fight. So super grateful. Now I'm in the space of coaching and consulting, and I primarily make most of my money investing. I am an affiliate with one company, but that's not my biggest check, and that's okay. And I love where I'm at. I help a lot of other women kind of identify their brand and their purpose. I'm not bragging. I give God the glory for everything. Okay?
All the glory. Like legitimately, and that just exudes, right? And like you are speaking from a place of just passion and just like gratitude, and that's felt. Like your spirit is just so felt, And so I kind of want to dive in a little bit into high heels.
Let's do it. I love it.
Because I was of course on the live when you announced the book came out, and with your fancy outfit, and that's why I was like, do I wear a dress today? What do I wear? Like, do we need to get dressed up?
I got cozy jeans on. That's what I'm wearing.
So I was like, okay, it's nighttime. Okay, we're moms, so let's like feel the vibe. So so how did the book High Heels come about? And I want you to tell everyone what this book is all about and how you're blessing women through it.
Yeah, so 2 years ago, I finally systemized my coaching program. I had been doing one-on-one coaching, and it kind of was just like, it wasn't like, oh, I want to be a coach, but I had amazing women that were like, girl, I need help. And so I wasn't going to say no. And, that's how I started that business. And then 2 years ago, I had someone come up to me and say, if you would systemize this and organize it, you could scale it to 6 figures and beyond. And I'm like, help. So I did. And last year I had 112 clients, amazing women that did a year-long program with me.
Wow.
And the truth is that I find myself really speaking to a lot of the same pain. There's so much we have in common. And listen, I've got sisters that are Indian sisters in Canada. I've got sisters that are Kenyan in Kenya. And it's amazing how much we have in common. So as I was creating my program for 2022, and I have 68 brand new women that have joined up, I found myself like, okay, what do I want to teach to? What do I want to teach to? And of course, as my business has gotten bigger, I've taken my price point up. I've had to get comfortable with doing that. But then there was
because you are worthy, and there's a piece earlier we're speaking of not having the confidence to, hey, give me that rent check. and let me, hey, can,
Yeah.
making that uncomfortable phone call, but
Yep.
then you're worthy. And like God, my best friend had passed away last year. And one thing that she would always say, she left me, when I say one of the biggest blessings outside of my son, just such a blessing because I'm so thankful to have known her because she left me with so much wisdom. And one thing she said was, um, she would always talk about the power in being who you really are and like what God has for you, like no one can take from you, and that God only gives good gifts.
Right. Absolutely.
And so like those good gifts are what I feel, I don't know, as you're speaking, I feel like have allowed you to feel that confidence of, God gives good gifts. So why not charge up?
That's it. And also I want to be a good steward. And he says that one
Yes.
time in his word, good and faithful is said one time. And it's to
Mm.
the man who brought him back an investment on his talents. And so if my talent is coaching, if my
Ooh.
talent is speaking, I don't have the authority to lower my price point. It's not my gift.
Ooh.
I had the bravery finally to really charge more. And that did also mean that I wasn't going to be for everyone. And I
Yeah.
had to get comfortable. Jesus loved the 5,000, but he focused on the 12.
Yeah.
So I had to learn how to really create more of a demand and raise my price
Yeah.
point.
Yeah.
However, one of the tools that I knew I could do to still service the women who don't have the income yet to hire me was to write a book. And the reason I didn't write a book up until now is because I struggled with
Mm.
perfectionism, and I would write and then stop and then write and then stop. And I gave myself a challenge to write and to complete this book in 30 days. And I learned so much. But
What?
yeah, it was fast. You know what I said is I'm going to forget all the things that I'm thinking, and I'm just going to write a letter to who I used to be.
Wow.
And I wrote all the ways that I used to sabotage myself and
Wow.
many of the ways that my mentees have sabotaged themselves. And I wrote each chapter is a step. So it's called High Heels, but it's spelled HEAL. And every chapter is a step in the right direction where we're going to remove a pattern of behavior that we may not even recognize that's holding us back. And then at the end of every chapter, I talk about a new pattern of behavior or mindset that we're going to adopt in its place. So one example would be perfectionism, which is, I totally struggle with it. And perfectionism is always wanting something to be perfect or nearly perfect. But the truth is that it is an egotistical way to procrastinate. And
Ooh.
yeah,
Oh, good. Oh, you just hit me with something.
yeah,
Oh, goodness.
because
Wow.
we really have these stories about what are people going to say when it's not perfect, or what are people going to say, or who do I think I am? And
Yes.
hopefully one day we'll all do the work to figure out where that voice is coming from. But for me, I kept playing small because of perfectionism, right? Like I will wait until I get discovered by a publisher and then I'll write the book. Well, that's just not a great way to use your gift.
Yeah.
Or wait until I have it edited to perfection and then I'll launch it. Or wait until I go to a writing camp. All these things we do, we literally put up our
Yeah.
own barriers. But I just started writing one day, and as I was writing, I started crying, and I just was like, man, I can't stop crying when I read this.
Therapy.
And so
Therapy.
for me, that's why I was like, okay, this has to happen. I'll make it happen now.
Yeah.
And so that's what it's about. It's about having you just kind of consider, do I do this to myself? Is this something I
Yeah.
can heal from? And
Yeah.
then maybe even giving you some insight on where that behavior is coming from. Because I know that when we're growing,
Yeah.
it tends to seem like there are barriers in our way, but the biggest barrier you'll ever face is yourself. There is
Yes.
nothing or no one who can finesse you more than you.
Yes.
And
Yes.
I just love that I get to teach that. I get to share that with other women. And in High Heels, you get a real chapter by chapter look on those behaviors. And it's kind of a book/journal hybrid. I do ask you to write. I do ask you to do some exercises at the end of each chapter. And so I'm really excited to have that launch. I self-published it. That's a whole nother story, child. But I just could not give Amazon 40% of my money. I just couldn't do it.
No. Because the message, you have to feel like you are being fulfilled, right, as you are serving.
That's it.
And kind of going back to the God gives good gifts. No, God does not give the gift of you are doing this or at a discount, because you are not a discount,
Right.
right? You're just so full of just everything. So I know I grabbed a copy, for of course, I just had to. And it's a great gift for, a friend. And sometimes we think about books and we're like, oh, well, I don't need that. But guess what? We as women, we all, like you said, we're all going through the same things.
Mhm.
And so whether you need the book or you don't feel like you need the book, someone that
Absolutely.
needs the book.
Yeah.
And so I love the fact that it's, you're holding people accountable by saying, no, you need to journal. You need to journal, get your thoughts out on paper, because that's the hardest thing. As I've kind of gone through like my own personal journey, that's been the hardest thing, is looking at my own reflection.
Mhm.
And a great way to do that is by writing it down, right? And looking at your words, because what is it? Write a vision, make it plain. Okay, when you put the words down on paper, it's like, dang, like this is me. This is what I'm really going through. This is what I need to get to the next level.
And
So,
we know now that it, just to give you guys a little something, in my coaching group, journaling is mandatory
yeah,
because after 8 weeks of journaling, the part of the brain that is associated with anxiety and depression actually starts to change shape. It's changing shape because the neurons are
wow.
firing together and that part of the brain starts to redevelop. Literally, we are seeing that after 8 weeks of consistent writing, you can heal your brain. And so it's a big way for us to identify our voice. Listen, you think you know you don't know you, because you don't listen
Yeah,
to you don't talk to you. And
yeah,
so a lot of women struggle with confidence and self-esteem, which
yeah,
is just another way of saying I have not amplified my voice yet. Well, how
yeah.
can you amplify a voice that you've never heard? And so the first step is to first identify it.
Ooh,
Listen, you gotta
Wanda.
identify your voice. And once you identify that voice, you're looking at it, you're like, wow, I'm a little negative, or I'm a little doubtful, or I'm very worrisome. After you identify the voice, now you can change it. You can start to change the voice. And once you get the ability to direct your thoughts and your voice, the next thing you want to do is you want to amplify the voice.
Yes.
And so if you feel like, dang, I don't know why I'm missing this connection with myself, and I know I'm healthy and I don't really have anything I should be worried about, but what is it? You don't know you. That's why script, writing, we know this as a child, right? We say a spell. Girl, what is a spell? A spell is just spelling. It's just writing. And so when you are journaling, you are actually tapping into a prophetic gift. It's not a game. Journaling, and I want to also speak to people on the line who don't read, because this is my community, okay? I
Yes.
have 3 dyslexic children who have gone through the Scottish Rite Children's Hospital program for dyslexia. It's the #1 program in the country.
Wow.
And in 8 weeks, they can take a dyslexic brain and get it to a post-college level, reading level. And during this process, I had to go through intensive training so I could support my children. And what I learned is that the reading muscle quickly atrophies. Okay, atrophy means it shrinks. It's like a muscle. If you put your arm in a cast, it's a skinny arm now until you work it up.
That's
The
okay.
reading muscle is that way. So how many times have you said, I'm going to read my Bible, and 3 minutes later you're asleep? Ooh. Because you have atrophy of the reading muscle. And so I know that, in this day and age, we like to say, oh, I just listen to it. I just like
Yeah.
audiobooks, girl. I just like audiobooks. And I
Yeah.
love you, and that's a great place. But what you don't understand is you're snitching on yourself. You have atrophy of your reading muscle. Reading and writing are 2 things that no other mammal on earth can do. God has given us a very specific gift in reading and writing, and we brag about not doing it. It is sad. And so reading changed my life. Do you
Your
hear?
whole life.
It seems so little, but I used
Yes.
to say I'm a bad student. No, I was a student that had atrophy of the brain. And so I've part of my program, and I know some of my mentees are on the line, so they're going to know what I'm doing now. I purposely have them read a lot. If they want to keep up with me in reading books, they're going to feel like it's a college course on purpose. And so there's something you can do. And I learned this through Scottish Rite Hospital. If that's you, if you feel like, girl, I struggle with reading and I'm a little ashamed, don't worry about it. Here's what you can do. Pick a book, right? The very first time you read, set your alarm for 5 minutes and read standing up, okay? When that alarm goes off, close the book, celebrate yourself, do that for a week. On week 2, raise it to 10 minutes, standing up and reading, walking around, reading. Week 3, 15 minutes. By week 4, that alarm will go off and you won't want to put the book down. Now you can trust yourself to sit and read. Now you can. It's actually a muscle. It doesn't mean you're dumb. It doesn't mean you're not bright. It doesn't mean you don't like to read. It just means that you're out of practice. And so those are 2 major things I want to leave with your audience, is that reading and writing. I challenge you, if you read daily and write daily, I promise you that in 1 year, you will not be the same person. Guarantee. You can cash that check on me.
Wow. Like, Wanda, I can't. When I tell you the hypeness that I was, because I know the blessing, I have been so blessed to be able to catch your lives and to be able to just hear. If I can't catch it, I try to at least go back and watch it. And so I know how much you and your energy and your wisdom has just blessed me, which is like amazing, because, you know, sometimes we don't realize that people that our peers are the greatest level of inspiration. We look sometimes to people that are, you know, leap years ahead of us, right? Like the 60-something-year-olds, and because like, oh, they have all this wisdom. But when you have someone that is relatable to who you are as a woman, I have gone through struggle. You have gone through struggle. We are products of immigrants. We have similar stories, right? Not the same story, but we have similarities. For me to be able to look at you and say, oh my goodness, you are just such a blessing. Just thank you so much. Just thank you so much for blessing myself and my audience and your audience this evening. Now, before you go, because I know you got to wrap up, you got to get the kids, okay, before they start to scream.
Right.
So what is one thing, you said so many amazing things. Yeah. What is the one thing, if you could wipe out everything that you have said here in this room tonight, what is one thing that you would leave anybody with?
I want you to know that God is in the business of evolvement, and that no matter what it looks like right now, that it really doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what your past is. It doesn't even matter what your present is. If there's anything that you can do that can really shape what you will become, is become obsessed with your future. Daydream, pray, write, meditate, go drive by the future house, go drive the future car, go pray for the future husband. The truth is that your power is a lot more magnified in your future than it'll ever be thinking about your past. And that God has not abandoned you, that he's not in the business of abandonment. He's not mad at you. He's not disappointed with you. He loves you in all your crooked ways. He knows about them, and he still chooses you daily. And so if you're listening to this and you struggle in that relationship, especially in this very loud world where we really don't know what that looks like right now, and it almost feels like there's no place for him in 2022, just know that you are fearfully and wonderfully made. There is gems inside of you. There's cures inside of you. There's solutions and businesses and books and music and songs and scripts and plays all inside of you. And specifically for the women that are on the line, so many times being raised up in what really truly is a patriarchal type of community and even globe, I just want you to know that God has a very tender and special place in his heart for his daughters. And, you know, I've been reading and kind of researching Abraham, and we know about the 12 tribes, but did you know that he had one daughter? And because of that one daughter and how much he loved her, he went and fought for her when she was violated. And that's such a big part of our faith and our story. And so what I know is that I'm not a second-class citizen, even if my mom got here on a boat. I'm not a second-class citizen, even if I am woman. And I have had to not look to the world to remind me of my value, but to remember that value comes from my Creator. And even if my faith doesn't line up with your faith, just understand that you are energy, energy, inner G.
Energy.
The energy that you are is coming from somewhere, and it's
Ooh.
and there are people whose blessings, desires, and dreams will never happen if you don't move. And so quit playing small. Go do the thing. Go do it big and loud, and go do it wrong. Who cares? Make the mistakes, because there are people who are waiting for someone just like you so that they can go, oh, snap, maybe I can. And that's it. If I can remind you of anything, it's that God took the product of an immigrant and the product of a really crazy move from New York to Corpus Christi, and even in all my brokenness and even in all my mistakes, he has made me whole. And I've made a lot of mistakes. And so just know, if I'm good, you're great. And I just want to really encourage you to not look at yourself and to count yourself out. If there's anything that is going to be left undone, just do it now. As a nurse, the biggest thing that I learned, and I feel like God had me be a nurse for this one specific thing, is I did have the pleasure of being with people as they transitioned. Sometimes these rooms were filled with family. Sometimes rooms were utterly empty. But every time I sat with someone as they were transitioning into a better place, what they talked about was the regrets of not being their full self. They never talked about not getting the house or the car or the money.
Yeah.
They talked about, I could have done more. I should have done more. I should have been bolder. I should have tried bigger. I should have gone down the path that I wanted and not what people wanted for me. I should have tried. I should have wrote the book. I should have launched the business. I should have. And every time I would remember leaving those spaces, and I was just way too soft-hearted to be a nurse, but I would leave those spaces.
Well, clearly I would be too. I'm saying,
and I would leave those spaces, and in my alone time, I would just say, God, just don't ever let me forget what you just said to me. Don't let me forget. And so my vow is that I refuse to leave this earth letting everyone use me but him.
Ooh.
And so I want that for you too, whether it doesn't matter. You know, the truth is, it's not the kids or the husband or the people or the job. It is what is inside of you. God has been whispering to you since you were a child, and you know it. And so instead of walking away from that, turning your face, lean into it, have trust, and understand that we are here to dynamically impact one another and to produce hope. That's what we are. And so I pray that you're doing that. And if you're not doing that, get around people who are doing that, and they will bring it out of you, because courage is contagious.
Yes.
Thank you, Nancy. I appreciate
you. Wanda Webb, y'all. I mean, wow. I'm in absolute I'm actually in tears. I've had a rough day. I found out a friend of mine, her husband passed away earlier. And, getting ready for this live, I was like, okay, I can't have the bags. I can't have the crying eyes, right? And so I feel the mascara in my eyes right now. So that's why I keep doing this. But I also have tears, and it's tears of joy. It's tears of hope. It's tears of, we are all exactly where we need to be right now. And thank you so much for just blessing me personally today. And thank you, everyone, for hopping on. And if you're just getting on right now, this live will be saved. So feel free, please, not feel free, please. You must go back and watch.
Let me give a call to action, because that's one of my favorite things to do. If you are here right now watching this live, I want you to do a couple of things, right? Because we always talk about support the community, support the community. It's you. You need to support the community.
You are the community.
If you're not following her, go follow her right now. If you haven't shared her live, share the live to your story. Make it part of your duty that when you see beautiful, especially, can we give it up for our Black sisters? When we see powerful Black women that are moving into new spaces and courage, it is our duty, not anyone else, to discover her community. That's us, to surround her, to love her, and to raise her up. This should go viral, not for me, I don't need it, but because Nancy is stepping out into new territory and really doing something that needs to be done, which is telling the stories of our community. And so I commend you, but not just with my words, but my actions. I want to have everyone do that.
Too much. I can't. I'm done. You have finished me. You have finished me, Wanda. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I love you too. Enjoy your evening. And Thank you, everyone, so much. And yeah, until next time, cheers.
Cheers for you. Toast.
Bye.